phrase. Of course you do. When your computer crashes, your phone just completely freezes up, or, your internet gives up the ghost. What do? You hit that classic all-powerful reset button. You clear the cache, restore the factory settings, and ideally everything runs smoother, faster, cleaner than it did before.
It's an absolutely essential process of maintenance for any complex, high-performing system.
Yeah.
But the most complex system we know isn't, made of silicon and wires.
No.
It's the human organism. It's you.
Exactly. And the hidden molecular truth we are diving into today is that your body has an ancient, evolutionarily conserved reset button, and it's meticulously coded right into your DNA over millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
This biological reset, it's not triggered by a power plug or some firmware update. It's triggered by the intentional application of controlled metabolic stress, specifically prolonged caloric restriction.
And we're talking about the 72-hour window.
We're talking about that 72-hour window. We're going to uncover the unspoken rules of human biology that govern this entire process.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to cut through all the noise and provide you with a true knowledge shortcut. We are laser-focused on extracting the critical nuggets of insight from a really dense, diverse stack of sources.
Yeah, and we have everything from, detailed molecular biology papers on cellular signaling pathways like AMPK and MTOR, all the way to clinical trial data tracking these profound human metabolic shifts during 7-day fasts.
And crucially, in-depth critical safety reviews of the whole process.
Our goal is for you, the listener, to understand not just what happens when you initiate a 72-hour reset, but the precise molecular why behind all these spectacular claims of cellular regeneration, immune system rejuvenation, and the fundamental metabolic mastery that is achieved.
We'll guide you through 4 essential pathways of knowledge. We're going to start with the master molecular switch that flips on cellular cleanup. That's autophagy.
Right.
Then we'll move to tracking the physiological shift as your body becomes really a fat-burning powerhouse.
Right.
After that, we'll detail the profound structural reset that occurs in your brain and immune system. And finally, and this is so important, we finish with a hidden danger that makes the post-fast recovery period the single most critical, non-negotiable step of the entire experience.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting at the smallest possible level, and deep inside the cell, where these molecular powerhouses essentially dictate if your entire cellular system is running in growth mode or survival mode.
And that distinction, that tiny internal argument, it governs everything that follows.
So let's get into it. Section 1, the molecular powerhouses.
To understand the reset, we absolutely must first meet the central figure in this molecular drama, AMPK.
AMPK.
That stands for AMP-activated protein kinase. If we stick with the analogy of a complex, well-managed system, this enzyme is best thought of as the cell's financial auditor and chief security officer all rolled into one.
I like that. The auditor. So it's highly conserved, you said, which means our cells today use the same basic mechanism that what ancient organisms did.
Precisely. It's found in almost every eukaryotic cell, which really emphasizes how fundamental this energy-sensing mechanism is to survival across all complex life.
So what's it auditing?
It's constantly monitoring the cell's energy reserves. Specifically, it tracks the ratio of high-energy molecules, that's ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, which is the cell's currency.
It's a cache.
The cache. And it compares that to the low-energy molecules like AMP, adenosine monophosphate.
So if ATP is the money in the bank account, then AMP is basically the debt notice. It's the IOU. When the cell is happily fed, ATP is high, and AMPK is just quiet.
That's the core idea. But when cellular energy plummets due to stress fasting being the most intentional way to do this, but also things like lack of oxygen or just general nutrient deprivation, the cell starts spending more ATP than it can generate.
Right.
And as that ATP gets consumed, the resulting low-energy molecules, AMP, they start piling up dramatically.
So when the debt notices, the AMP start piling up and the bank account balance drops, the auditor, AMPK, gets activated and it sounds the alarm.
Exactly. When AMP levels increase, or when other things like calcium or reactive oxygen species signal distress, AMPK is activated. And once it's active, its core function is to seize control.
Okay.
It immediately strives to maintain energy homeostasis. It does this by promoting catabolism, that's breaking things down for immediate fuel, while simultaneously inhibiting anabolism,
which is the building up process.
the costly, energy-intensive process of building new things. The mandate is crystal clear. Pause all expensive projects, conserve resources, and prioritize immediate survival over say, proliferation.
This sounds like the cellular version of a financial crisis. It's forcing a rapid austerity program. But here's where it gets really, really interesting, because AMPK doesn't act alone. It's locked in this constant high-stakes tug-of-war with another major player, which we can call the cell's master builder.
MTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin.
MTOR.
If AMPK is the handbrake and the auditor, MTOR is the central regulator of growth and construction. It's the manager of the entire cellular construction crew. It's constantly integrating signals from abundant nutrients and growth factors, like insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1. So when nutrients are plentiful, when you are eating, MTOR is fully active. It's telling the cell, resources are overflowing, build, grow, replicate, divide.
So when we initiate the fast, the nutrient signals drop and AMPK slams the handbrake. But how does that physically happen at the molecular level?
It's a beautiful piece of molecular engineering, actually. When AMPK is activated, it performs a key direct intervention. It directly inhibits mTORC1, which is the major growth complex.
Oh.
It does this by chemically tagging a protein component of the MTR complex called raptor. This tagging process is called phosphorylation.
Okay, for the listener who maybe hasn't been in a molecular biology lab in a while, what does phosphorylation actually achieve here? What is it doing?
Think of it like a molecular key turning a switch. Phosphorylation just means adding a phosphate group to a molecule. In this case, when NPK phosphorylates raptor, it changes the physical shape of the MTOR complex. And that essentially inactivates it. That phosphorylation acts as the definitive off switch. And when MTOR is inhibited, the cell removes the repression on the essential cleanup process we're focusing on today.
Autophagy. And that's it. That's the flip.
This is how the metabolic switch flips from growth and storage to maintenance, survival, and recycling.
That's the moment the cell stops being the high-growth startup and becomes this highly efficient, stripped-down survivalist. And this transition brings us directly to the star of this 72-hour reset show.
Autophagy.
Literally self-eating.
Right, but autophagy is not self-destruction. That's a key point. It is the body's highly organized, proactive internal recycling program.
A good distinction.
It's a crucial mechanism where the cell strategically degrades and recycles its own dysfunctional components. Things like old, damaged protein aggregates, cellular waste products, and particularly dysfunctional mitochondria, the old power plants.
Right.
This process promotes profound cellular renewal and adaptation to stress, which is absolutely essential for long-term cell viability.
So this is the spring cleaning operation inside the cell, where the cell cannibalizes the broken components to generate energy and raw materials for essential functions. What's the specific molecular instruction set for actually starting this cleanup?
So the initial mechanism requires two inputs. We have the inactivation of the growth signal, which is MTOR inhibition.
Okay.
And then we need the direct activation of the cleanup crew commander, an enzyme called ULK1. That's UNC51, like kinase 1.
And who activates ULK1? Let me guess.
The activated AMPK does. It directly phosphorylates several sites on ULK1, specifically at serine 317 and serine 777, among others.
So it's a direct order.
It's a direct order. This phosphorylation initiates what is called autophagosome biogenesis, the actual creation of these double membrane vesicles that swallow the cellular debris before they transport it to the lysosome for degradation and recycling.
This is incredibly detailed, but it really emphasizes that this is not some gentle process. It's a targeted, chemically driven survival mechanism. And this brings us to why we're focusing specifically on 72 hours. Why 3 days? Why not 24 hours or a week?
The timing is critical. It's because autophagy takes time to really ramp up significantly, especially in tissues that have large reserves. While, sure, 24 hours can initiate the process, the payoff window is definitely in prolonged caloric restriction.
So you have to push past that first day.
You do. Research specifically demonstrates spectacular, massive increases in key autophagy markers when you hit this extended phase. We're talking about increases reported in some studies ranging from 300% up to 400% compared to traditionally fed states.
That is staggering, 4 times the normal cleanup crew capacity.
It is. This incredible surge in activity, which is generally noted to peak somewhere around 48 to 72 hours of fasting, is precisely why people seek longer fasts for profound cellular benefits. This duration maximizes the removal of damaged components, the cellular debris and broken parts, and it contributes significantly to delaying cellular aging processes. If you want the deep structural internal reset, you have to push past that immediate 24-hour mark.
You have to.
You have to ensure the AMPK signal is sustained long enough to initiate this deep cleaning process across various tissues.
Fascinating. So the 72-hour mark isn't some arbitrary number. It's the period where the molecular system has truly flipped the switch and hit peak operational efficiency in survival mode.
Exactly.
Okay, we've established the why the molecular flip switch. Now let's zoom out and track the practical when the physiological timeline of how your entire body moves from relying on easily accessed sugar to becoming a true master of fat metabolism.
The bigger picture.
We start with timeline checkpoint 1, the first 24 hours. This is the period most people know pretty well. If you step on the scale after just one day of fasting, you're likely going to see a number that makes you feel immediately successful. But this is what we call the waterway illusion.
That's a crucial distinction to make. It's the glycogen depletion stage. Your muscles and your liver, they store reserves of carbohydrate in the form of glycogen.
Right.
These stores are limited, totaling maybe 500 grams in a typical adult. But the key thing to understand about that stored fuel is its physical structure.
And that structure is what binds the water.
Precisely. Each single gram of glycogen binds about 3 grams of water to itself. Glycogen is hydrophilic. It loves water. So when the fast begins, your body just burns through those carbohydrate stores very quickly, forcing the release of all the water they were holding on to.
So when you empty these 500 grams of carbohydrate stores, you don't just lose half a kilo of glycogen, you're flushing out an additional 1.5 kilos of water.
That initial marked loss of water weight can account for a rapid reduction of 2 to 3 kilograms, or 4 to 7 pounds, on the scale within that first day or two.
Wow.
So this is the physiological start, burning through easily accessible stored carbs and the accompanying flush of water. This is a great signal that the fast has begun, but it doesn't represent sustainable fat loss yet.
Right. Then we hit the true metabolic revolution. Timeline checkpoint 2. This is the window between 24 and 72 hours. This is where the profound metabolic rewiring begins. This is the primary fat burning and ketosis stage. This is the whole point of pushing into day 2 and day 3.
Absolutely. This transition is characterized by a dramatic, measurable rise in ketone body's fuel molecules like bihydroxybutyrate, as the liver shifts its focus entirely to breaking down stored fatty acids for fuel.
And we have evidence for this.
We have fantastic granular molecular evidence of the commitment your body makes to this shift.
So tell us about the evidence. What happens in the cell to sort of mandate this shift?
A detailed 7-day human study gave us insight into the aggressiveness of this metabolic switch. It showed that the expression of pyruvate dehydrogenase kinase 4, or PDK4, increased a staggering 13-fold during the fasting state.
13-fold? I mean, think about that. Your body is not gently nudging the dial here. It is slamming a switch 13 times harder toward fat burning. What does that immense increase in PDK4 actually signal to the body, and why does it matter so much?
PDK4 is a critical regulator.
Yeah.
Its job is to inhibit pyruvate dehydrogenase.
Okay.
And that's the enzyme complex that allows the body to burn carbohydrates for energy. So by increasing PDK4 expression so profoundly 13 times over, the body is aggressively reducing its ability to burn carbohydrates.
It's putting up a roadblock.
It's essentially putting up a molecular road closed sign for glucose, redirecting the entire system toward fat utilization. This metabolic rewiring is crucial for ensuring sustained energy output, even while resources are scarce, and it helps the body conserve its small supply of protein and muscle mass.
It's the body intentionally making itself carb-averse to conserve precious resources. It's ensuring survival for longer. It's the ultimate evolutionary mechanism. But there's a fascinating, complex twist here, a metabolic paradox in this acute temporary state. We talk constantly about fasting improving long-term insulin sensitivity, but the 72-hour window presents a momentary, pretty complex reaction.
Indeed. It's a key point that really highlights the complexity of acute adaptation versus long-term benefits. While prolonged, strategic fasting generally improves long-term metabolic markers, leading to better overall systemic insulin sensitivity, lower fasting glucose, and reduced inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein.
Right, all the good stuff.
The 72-hour fast can actually lead to acute temporary insulin resistance, specifically in the skeletal muscle.
That feels completely counterintuitive. Why on earth would the muscle temporarily resist taking up glucose when the body needs to maintain homeostasis?
This temporary resistance is directly associated with the metabolic shift toward fat. Specifically, it involves the accumulation of lipid droplets and glycogen in the skeletal muscle itself, combined with the extreme reliance on fatty acids.
Okay.
The underlying molecular mechanism involves the impairment of phosphorylation at specific sites on AS160, which is a key regulator protein for glucose uptake into the muscle cell.
So the acute state shifts the entire muscle metabolism so radically toward using fat that the muscle temporarily becomes resistant to glucose. Even though the body's overall insulin signaling upstream might not be affected, it's a short-term trade-off.
Precisely. It's the body saying, look, we're running on fat now, we don't need glucose in the muscles, and it's reserving any available glucose for critical organs, like the small portion of the brain that still requires it. This paradox underscores that the acute fasting state is an extreme, stress-driven adaptation.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The biggest concern for anyone attempting prolonged caloric restriction: muscle mass. The fear is always, if I don't eat, my body will just consume my muscles. If you're running purely on catabolism, why aren't we wasting away?
That concern, while it's logical, is really rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of the body's evolutionary conservation mechanisms. We are exceptionally good at conserving lean muscle mass.
Really?
The body uses a highly specific fuel hierarchy. After glycogen is gone, the body turns overwhelmingly to the massive energy reservoir of adipose tissue, fat.
So how does the body decide when to shift from fat to muscle?
Generally, the body will not begin breaking down significant, useful muscle tissue for fuel until the stored fat reserves account for a critically low figure. We're talking less than 4% of total body weight.
And just for context, that is a survival level. I mean, an extremely lean, elite male athlete, like a marathon runner, might maintain around 8% body fat, which is still double that critical threshold.
Right. So unless you are already starting from a state of severe malnourishment, the body has plenty of reserves to draw upon first.
Okay.
Furthermore, fasting actively deploys highly sophisticated defense mechanisms to protect muscle, the most important of which is hormonal. Fasting triggers a powerful protective release of human growth hormone, or HGH.
What kind of boost are we talking about here?
A significant one. A 24-hour fast, for instance, has been shown to dramatically boost circulating HGH levels, and this increase is independent of weight loss.
And what's HGH doing?
HGH's primary role in this context is to conserve lean muscle mass. It does that by promoting lipolysis, the breakdown of fat, while stabilizing muscle protein. It's a biological safeguard designed to ensure you retain the strengths necessary to, find food once the fast ends.
That's the positive, protective hormonal signal. But you mentioned a 6-day study that showed a downshift in other critical hormones, which suggests the body is highly selective about what it conserves and what it temporarily pauses.
That's correct. One study observing healthy men during a 6-day fast showed a significant temporary decrease in both total and free testosterone concentrations. This is a very common physiological response to caloric stress.
Why does the body make that trade-off?
It's a systemic energy conservation strategy. While the body conserves strength and muscle via HGH for survival, it temporarily downshifts non-essential functions like reproductive hormones during this perceived stress period.
So it's a temporary pause.
It is. The good news is that this effect was shown to be completely reversible. Concentrations return to pre-fasting levels after the recovery period. It's just a sign that the body has entered a temporary deep survival mode, pausing systems that aren't immediately necessary.
All right, let's move on. Section 3, the systemic reset.
Moving beyond the physical fuel shift and the hormonal management, let's discuss the systemic reset, how these profound molecular and metabolic changes translate into functional, noticeable changes in your most complex organs, starting with the brain.
This is often the most reported subjective experience. I mean, many people who hit day 3 of a prolonged fast report, improved mental clarity, heightened focus, and this sustained, stable energy, which seems entirely counterintuitive when you haven't eaten a single calorie.
Well, this enhanced cognitive function is directly linked to the metabolic shift we just detailed, the production of ketone bodies. Specifically, the main ketone, beta-OHB or beta-hydroxybutyrate, is an alternative, highly efficient, and really a premium fuel source for the brain.
A premium fuel.
Studies on human brain metabolism during a 72-hour fast confirm this shift, showing that ketone bodies rapidly become essential, covering approximately 1/4 of the cerebral energy requirement by the 3rd day.
The brain is essentially switching from basic high-volume glucose to a more efficient, cleaner source of fuel. But the shift involves more than just swapping fuels. It involves a fascinating functional slowdown of its primary glucose-driven pathway.
Precisely. A separate, very advanced 72-hour brain metabolism study using magnetic resonance spectroscopic imaging provided concrete evidence of this downshift. They found widespread, significant decreases in the GLAS-X signal, which represents glutamate and glutamine, across all 9 brain regions studied.
Okay.
These decreases were very significant, ranging up to a massive 21% in some areas.
Wow, a 21% systemic decrease in a major signaling pathway is huge. Glutamate is the major excitatory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system. It's the brain's accelerator pedal. So what does a decrease in the signal imply for the listener's mental state?
It suggests a functional decrease in glutamatergic neuronal activity in response to the reduced glucose supply. Think of it this way. The primary high-energy pathway, the glucose burning, that drives rapid, often chaotic or stressed, excitatory thought, is being deliberately paused or dampened.
So the brain is calming down.
The brain actively downshifts its high-energy, high-demand activity to conserve resources. This contributes to that feeling of reduced mental noise or the clarity people report. The brain is quieter and it's running on the stable, clean energy of ketones.
So the ketones are not only premium fuel, but they are also acting as signaling molecules, telling the brain, slow down the rapid firing, conserve energy, and get ready for renovation.
This dual role is absolutely critical. ApoHB doesn't just provide ATP. It acts as a signaling molecule that robustly induces the expression of grain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF.
BDNF.
We often refer to BDNF as Miracle-Gro for the brain because its effects are so transformative.
So what does Miracle-Gro do in a brain that's running quiet on ketones?
It stimulates critical processes. BDNF drives mitochondrial biogenesis, creating new efficient power plants in the neurons, and it promotes the formation of new synapses, the communication junctions between neurons. This supports enhanced learning and memory function, and, importantly, increases synaptic plasticity. It's a mechanism that directly supports neuroprotection and reduces the risk of long-term neurodegenerative conditions. The fast creates the optimal environment for the brain to heal and upgrade itself.
That brain upgrade takes us to perhaps the most fascinating structural insight from our sources. This isn't just about fuel, it's about structural flexibility. A recent groundbreaking 2024 proteomic study gave us the molecular foundation for the profound reset feeling people describe.
So it was a big one.
This large study tracked over 3,000 plasma proteins over a 7-day fast and revealed a critical piece of information. The most profound systemic changes only truly emerged after 3 full days.
That finding is key because it gives molecular backing to the 72-hour threshold we've been talking about. Among the dramatic shifts they observed, one stood out as particularly relevant to the feeling of cognitive reset. A major change in a brain-specific extracellular matrix protein called tenascin-R-TNR.
Okay, tell us what tenascin-R normally does. What is its standard job in the adult brain?
TNR is a core component of the perineuronal nets, these dense, specialized structures that surround neurons and synapses. Its primary job, once adulthood is reached, is to restrict post-traumatic remodeling and stabilize synaptic plasticity.
So it's like a rigid scaffolding.
It acts like a rigid molecular scaffolding that locks in neural pathways and prevents the adult brain from easily reorganizing itself. It's stability at the cost of flexibility.
So if TNR is the scaffolding that locks everything in place, what did the study find regarding fasting?
And the study showed a measurable reduction in circulating levels of cascade, and the implication of that is profound. This reduction acts as a molecular unplugging mechanism. By temporarily dismantling this rigid scaffolding, the fasting state induces structural flexibility in the nervous system. The brain is essentially primed for reorganization and repair during the subsequent refeeding phase.
This molecularly connects to the subjective experience. If the scaffolding is taken down, the brain is literally more open to change, to new ideas, to laying down new, healthier neural patterns once the food and new nutrients return. It's truly a structural and psychological reset.
It's the highest level of adaptation. The brain, which usually resists major structural change, is temporarily made malleable.
And beyond the brain, the 72-hour fast is also a powerful stressor that regenerates the body's security force, the immune system. It's the classic out with the old, in with the new scenario at a cellular level.
This is perhaps one of the most clinically compelling benefits of prolonged caloric restriction. The mechanism starts with the global reduction of growth signals we discussed earlier, particularly insulin-like growth factor 1 or IGF-1.
And why is lowering IGF-1 so important for the immune system?
A drop in IGF-1 subsequently lowers the activity of pKa, protein kinase A. And this specific reduction in pKa activity is the crucial trigger that stimulates hematopoietic stem cell self-renewal.
So by forcing the body to stop growing, by lowering the growth signal, it triggers the deepest level of cellular regeneration in the immune system, the stem cells.
Precisely. The fast promotes what we call lineage-balanced hematopoietic regeneration. Essentially, the stress of the fast compels the body to clean out older, potentially damaged or mutated immune cells, a kind of cellular triage.
Right.
And then it replenishes the immune system's cellular inventory with new, resilient cells derived from that regenerated stem cell pool. This effect enhances the overall recovery capacity and robustness of the immune system.
And finally, let's look at the plumbing, the critical cardiovascular system. The fast is clearly a preventative maintenance measure for heart and vascular health.
It is. The systemic nature of the fast improves several traditional risk factors. Clinical studies consistently show measurable reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure, which is maintained after the fast.
And cholesterol.
We see significant improvements in lipid panels, reduced total cholesterol, reduced low-density lipoprotein LDL cholesterol, and reduced triglycerides.
So what's the molecular link here to improved heart function?
Part of this profound benefit is mediated by the activation of SIRT1, a sirtuin that is highly upregulated during the fasting state, functioning as a key longevity protein. SIRT1 is instrumental in promoting endothelium-dependent vasodilation.
Okay, what does that complex phrase mean in simpler terms?
It means that SIRT1 enhances the ability of your blood vessels to relax and widen, which improves blood flow. It achieves this by increasing the production of ENOS, or endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which creates nitric oxide.
Okay.
By improving the function and flexibility of the endothelium, that crucial lining of your blood vessels fasting actively supports healthier blood flow, reduced resistance, and consequently reduced blood pressure and improved vascular health.
It's truly amazing how a single action caloric deprivation triggers such a cascade of beneficial, adaptive responses across every single system, from the audit office of the cell to the structural foundation of the brain.
But that brings us to our final section.
And the most important one.
The critical final step, risk management and safe re-entry. We have spent a considerable amount of time discussing the spectacular deep benefits of the 72-hour reset. But now we must address the single most crucial element of this process, risk.
Yes.
While the cellular renewal is compelling, longer fasts carry significant risks if not approached with extreme caution, awareness, and preparation. This is one of the most important unspoken rules of this entire practice.
This is the critical warning that cannot be overstated, especially as the fast extends beyond 72 hours. We are talking about refeeding syndrome. It's a potentially very serious condition caused not by the fast itself, but by the rapid reintroduction of food afterward.
This is absolutely counterintuitive, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Why is eating the thing the body desperately needs, the moment of greatest risk?
Well, the risk stems from the body's abrupt metabolic gear change and the resulting sudden demand for essential minerals. When the body has been in prolonged survival mode, its metabolism is highly adapted to using fat and ketones.
Right.
During this time, minerals like phosphate, potassium, and magnesium often shift out of the bloodstream and into the cells, and sometimes they can become depleted overall.
So if you suddenly introduce large amounts of carbohydrates and calories, especially sugar or refined carbs, the body rapidly switches back to processing glucose. And this metabolic pathway requires a sudden, massive influx of these very same minerals to drive the necessary enzymes and processes.
But specifically,
phosphorus is needed to create ATP from glucose, and potassium is required to pump insulin, which shuttles glucose into the cells.
So if those plasma levels of minerals are already low from the fast, and the body suddenly pulls massive amounts of them into the cells to process the incoming food, the plasma levels just plummet instantly.
Correct. This results in severe hypophosphatemia, coupled with acute potassium and magnesium depletion. These sudden and dramatic electrolyte imbalances can lead to severe and time-sensitive complications.
Like what?
The most dangerous are cardiac arrhythmias, disruptions to the heart's rhythm, which can lead to a final outcome. And serious neurological symptoms, including seizures and confusion. This is why strict medical supervision, usually in a clinical setting, is non-negotiable for fasts extending beyond 4 or 5 days.
Right. And why great caution is needed even for a 72-hour reset. So even for a healthy person attempting this, understanding and managing the predictable transient side effects is vital for success and safety. The goal is to feel clear, not faint or miserable.
Absolutely. You have to recognize the common, often uncomfortable symptoms. The first 48 hours are usually the toughest, often referred to as keto flu, that's characterized by intense hunger pangs, mood changes, and irritability. Headaches are very common, typically resulting from dehydration or insufficient electrolyte intake. Fatigue and sleep disturbances, particularly early waking, are also frequently noted.
Okay, so the crucial point here, which many first-timers miss, is that you are not simply surviving on water. You have to actively support your body's osmotic balance. How do you mitigate the major risks related to dehydration and mineral depletion?
The key is proactive, consistent electrolyte supplementation during the prolonged fast. Water alone will not suffice and can actually exacerbate mineral dilution.
So what's the protocol?
Based on protocols used in clinical fasting settings, you need approximately 1 to 2 grams of sodium, 2 to 3 grams of potassium, and 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium daily during the fast. That's to maintain osmotic balance and support basic nerve and muscle function.
That's a huge difference from just drinking tap water. And how can you monitor yourself to know if you are successfully maintaining your electrolyte status?
Monitor your body carefully for red flags. Your urine should remain light yellow. Dark urine indicates dehydration. But more importantly, pay attention to physical symptoms.
Like
dizziness, especially upon standing, or muscle cramps, particularly leg cramps at night, are clear, non-negotiable signals that you require increased intake of both fluids and electrolytes immediately.
And we have to talk about blood pressure, which is tied directly to electrolyte balance and hydration.
A critical point. A lack of electrolytes and temporary dehydration causes orthostatic hypotension, that alarming sudden drop in blood pressure and resulting dizziness when you stand up quickly from sitting or lying down.
That sounds dangerous.
It dramatically increases the risk of falls and injury, which is a serious safety consideration. Simple actions like standing slowly, bracing yourself, and ensuring robust electrolyte intake are essential safety measures. The fast is supposed to regenerate your system, not put you in harm's way.
This preparation brings us to the final, non-negotiable step, the unspoken rule of refeeding. We have established that the post-fast period is as critical, if not more critical, than the fast itself. You cannot just return to your normal pre-fast diet.
That is the moment of greatest peril. The safe reentry protocol demands a gradual, gentle, and intentional approach. You must reintroduce food slowly, starting with very small portions of light, easily digestible items that do not trigger a massive insulin spike.
So no pizza or giant steak dinner to celebrate the end of 72 hours. What should the first meal actually look like?
The ideal first foods are liquids rich in minerals but low in simple carbohydrates. So things like bone broth, vegetable consomme, or light diluted smoothies are excellent choices. They provide necessary sodium, potassium, and magnesium and a minimal caloric load, allowing your body to gently reboot its digestive enzymes and metabolism without causing the dangerous electrolyte shift.
We even have data on what therapeutic, medically supervised programs advise. Protocols developed by historical institutions like the Buchinger Clinic often recommend starting the reentry meals at an extremely low caloric level, something like 200 to 300 total kilocalories for the entire first day after the fast.
That slow, gradual approach is key. And the focus must be not just on caloric volume, but nutrient quality. High-quality, organically sourced food is highly recommended. You want to ensure that the first nutrients entering your newly reset, highly sensitive system are clean, supportive, and packed with micronutrients to replenish those depleted stores.
This speaks to the long-term view. Successful mastery of the 72-hour reset means the fast isn't an isolated event. It's a strategic intervention. You have to continue healthy eating afterward to lock in those hard-earned metabolic improvements.
Precisely. If you immediately rush back to high-carb, processed foods, you negate the structural flexibility you gained in the brain, and you undermine the metabolic victory. The goal is sustained positive changes, like improved lipid composition and better insulin signaling, which only happens if the refeeding phase is as disciplined as the fast itself. The recovery is the ultimate test of mastery.
So let's wrap this up.
We've completed the full loop on the 72-hour reset. We started this deep dive with the molecular gatekeepers AMPK and MTOR and saw how the stress of caloric restriction flips a fundamental survival switch, initiating profound cellular renewal through autophagy, which hits its peak efficiency between 48 and 72 hours.
We trace the physiological timeline, moving past the quick water weight loss illusion and into the metabolic mastery phase, where your body aggressively resists carbohydrates by turning up PDK4 by 13-fold and runs cleanly and efficiently on premium ketone fuel, all while actively conserving precious muscle mass via HGH.
And we highlighted the systemic benefits that define the reset. The ability of caloric restriction to facilitate structural flexibility in the nervous system by temporarily dismantling the rigid scaffolding of tenascin R in the brain, and the incredible effect of boosting immune system resilience through hematopoietic stem cell regeneration. This entire cascade demonstrates that adaptation to temporary scarcity is undeniably one of our most powerful ancient evolutionary tools.
So what does this all mean for your life today? The final unspoken rule of total life mastery isn't just about cleaning out the old, it's about strategically preparing your most complex system for the new. The physiological challenge of a 72-hour fast is temporary, yes, but the structural and metabolic reset you earn is a chance to fundamentally rebuild your systems better and stronger than they were before.
Huh.
And think about this, using that incredible finding of tenascin R. If your brain is capable of temporarily lowering the structural barriers that lock in old pathways, literally becoming more malleable in the face of temporary metabolic stress, what entrenched habits, what long-held beliefs or negative neural patterns could you finally unplug or rewire during that period of structural flexibility?
It's a fascinating question.
The deep power of the reset might not be just physical. It might be the biological opening you need to initiate radical, lasting behavioral change.
Yeah.
And you can't leave this deep dive without leaving a mark on the digital universe. The final unspoken rule of the internet requires you to share that value. Like this knowledge, the algorithm knows it matters and pushes this information to those who need the shortcut. Comment below with your biggest aha moment. Did the tenascin R finding surprise you? Or was it the acute insulin resistance paradox? And of course, subscribe to the deep dive and ring that notification bell so you never miss another deep knowledge shortcut. The final rule is that the pursuit of mastery is endless, but you never have to pursue it alone. We'll be here for the next one.